You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode.
Good morning and welcome to Power Talk. I am Micah, Ponce, the Communications and Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative and one of your hosts today for Power Talk. Libby, it's a little bit empty in here today.
It's just me and you.
Don't know if I know how to act. It's unusual.
We ran out of experts, I guess.
Hey, between the two of us, we've got enough knowledge to hopefully fill 30 minutes of a show. We'll see.
I mean, we can talk for 30 minutes. Yeah. I don't know.
Not sure how much we're gonna, how much information we're gonna give to the members, but we're gonna give it the old college try.
Yeah.
Well, we've made it to June. So halfway through the year, but it also means that it's hurricane season, which is nobody's favorite time of year, unfortunately. You know, it's going to stay hurricane season all the way through the end of November. Doesn't really heat up, no pun intended, until a little bit later in the summer when we really start to see some increase in the activity. But the scientists are already giving us their predictions, and they're saying to expect above normal activity this summer.
Which means normal activity.
Normal activity for here in, the low country. Yeah. I think they said it's because of La Nina and some warmer than average ocean temperatures. Yeah. So, what they're telling us, outlook for 2024 here in the Atlantic is going to be from NOAA, who was our friends at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. For those of you who want a whole mouthful of words to say, we just call them NOAA.
Yeah.
And they're predicting anywhere from 17 to 25 total of named storms. That's with winds above 39 miles an hour. And that actually sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
When you put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we say it's normal, and it kind of is, but I mean, that's still a lot, and it's something that folks need to take notice of, because one of the things that we don't want them to do is become complacent.
Yeah.
Just because we have always seem to have an above normal amount of hurricanes or storms that are going to be coming our way, it sort of becomes, sort of every day. Yeah. But all it takes is that one time, for us to get a direct hit, and then, the preparations are going to be key.
Yeah. Well, and some of the things we're going to talk about today, how our members can get prepared, how we prepare. These are all really great takeaways for the summer season in general, because even though it's hurricane season, it's also afternoon thunderstorm season.
Exactly.
And a bad afternoon thunderstorm can do damage to the system, and you might have a shorter outage, but it still can affect our ability to deliver electricity.
Yeah, I mean, just the other day, woken up in the middle of the night by thunder crashing and possibly hail. So, I mean, it's one of those things that can, like you said, all summer long we're going to be dealing with. So preparation is key, making sure that you have your plan ready, your supplies ready. And we'll be talking about those things as we go through, because one of the things that, obviously we want to talk about is hurricanes. And for those of you who are, maybe not, real familiar, maybe a new transplant to the low country. Welcome from Ohio.
Well, I mean, we have 35 people a day moving to the Charleston area?
We do, yeah.
So lots of folks from Ohio.
Yes.
They don't have very many hurricanes in Ohio.
Yeah, so for those folks who are new to the area, we were talking about NOAA and their forecast, and they're saying that out of all those storms that are coming our way, anywhere from like 8 to 13 of them can be hurricanes, which is winds of 74 miles an hour or higher. And as we all know, that tropical storms can have winds all the way right up to the edge of that, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be a hurricane to be damaging. So as we've mentioned, and we want to make sure that our folks are ready and prepared for anything that comes their way this summer. So, Libby, what are some of the steps that our members can take now to make sure that they're ready for a major storm later?
Well, Berkeley Electric is so fortunate to serve a wide territory across the Low Country, portions of the Tri-County. So, a lot of people think with a name like Berkeley Electric, we're just Berkeley County, but no, we're in Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester counties. Yep. So we are out on the islands, Kiowa, Seabrook, Wadmalaw, Johns Island, into some municipalities, Goose Creek, Monk's Corner. And then we go out to the National Forest, Ondaw, portions of Mount Pleasant and McClellanville, St. Stephen's and Cross, and, everything in between. So we know our members have different needs and different access to technology. So we try to offer a variety of ways that our members can maintain their account, get in contact with us, especially during an outage. So with all that said, we have a variety of ways that our members can make sure that their information's up to date. First and foremost, make sure that the phone numbers on your account are accurate.
Yep.
Our outage reporting system works through the phone number system. So, if you've gotten a new cell phone or, maybe you've turned off your landline.
I was about to say, that's one of the things that, we've run into a lot is that landlines used to sort of be the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is on file in a lot of cases, especially if you've been a member for a long time. You've still got that landline. But I know in our house, if the landline rings, we don't even pick it up. And really, the only reason we actually still have one is for a storm in case cell towers go down.
Yeah.
But making sure that your primary phone number is the one that we have on account. Yeah. So that way when we send out the notifications or you report an outage, that it actually gets recorded correctly.
Yeah, quickly and correctly.
Yep.
Smart Hub is something great to go ahead and sign up for. If you're not already using Smart Hub to monitor your usage and pay your bill and that sort of thing, go ahead and download it to your smart device, your phone, your iPad, whatever. And Smart Hub's great to have, because just by a couple of clicks here and there, you can report your outage. There's a quick link to our outage map, so you can see who all else is out of power.
Right. Just make sure it's not just you.
Yeah. And kind of see the status of your outage. So great way to give us information and for you to get information on our Smart Hub app.
Right. And it's free. So those folks, you don't have to worry about it. It's very easy to download. It's available for Android and for Apple products.
Yep.
And like Libby said, you just download it with a few simple bits of information. Select Berkeley Electric as your cooperative, and then you'll have access to all the things that she was talking about. And like you said, the easiest way, if you're sitting on your couch and the power goes out, all you got to do is whip out your phone or your mobile device and click a couple times to report, an issue, and let us know, because it may not be just you, but it might just be you. So don't make the assumption that it's a widespread outage, because it might be something that's just affecting your home. So always make sure to report your outage, folks.
Yes, definitely. And the third way that our members can prepare for hurricane season is just to have a plan. We work really hard all year long to maintain our system as it's growing very rapidly.
Very rapidly.
But, if a tree goes crashing through a line from outside the right-of-way, or if we lose transmission to a substation, you're going to be without power for a period of time. And if there's widespread damage, it can take a day or a few days or a week to repair that damage. So, be prepared. If you have a medical condition that requires electricity to keep you safe and secure, you might want to look at investing in a generator. If that's something that's not really something that'll work for your household, make a plan to maybe move further inland, out of the storm path. But having a plan is so important.
And you got to make sure that your plan, takes into account all aspects of your family. So, think about pets too.
Yeah.
So if you've got pets and you have to relocate from the area, you don't want to leave, Fido behind to, fend through the hurricane on his own. So make sure that you plan ahead to know what hotels in the general area that you might be moving to are pet friendly.
Sure.
As you mentioned, make sure that you got any special medications that you need to take with you. And Berkeley Electric, we do maintain a list of folks who have special medical needs. However, we cannot guarantee that you're going to be a priority. What that list does is whenever we know that we have severe weather moving into the area and we expect that there's going to be outages, we're going to send you a message, email typically, a heads up to say, hey, there's a really good chance we're going to have extended outages because of the storm. and please implement your plan. So, I know it's really hard for a lot of folks who have these medical devices to pick up and move. So having the plan in place, there are shelters that have power in the area, and you can check with Berkeley County to see or Charleston County to see which shelters do have power. So that's also an option if you have to leave to go to somewhere more secure.
Yeah.
So,
and you mentioned pets. I grew up in Walterboro, and actually we had just moved to the area when Hurricane Hugo hit. And my mother grew up on a farm, loved the farm lifestyle. We lived out in the country near Kennedy's. And when we moved to the area, we brought an old Jersey cow that was a pet of hers, but she actually milked it and raised calves for a farmer in Somerville.
Okay.
Another story. But we had a cow and a foxtrotter horse. So we lived out on 5 acres.
Right.
Did not have city water, as you might expect. But when Hurricane Hugo hit and we were without power for weeks, that also meant we didn't have water. So, as you're developing your plan, if you live out in a rural area and your well's not going to be operational,
right,
and you have livestock or things that cannot be easily moved, chickens, those typically can't go to a shelter. Have a plan for those as well, because we're going to be working as quickly and safely as we can, but it might take a minute.
Right, and we're going to stick with a theme, folks. We're talking about water here. So, we're talking about having a plan. It never hurts at the beginning of the season to go buy a couple of gallons of water here, a couple of gallons of water there, and have it handy. Because as we all know, as soon as the word comes that we've got a storm heading into this area, all that water off the shelves is going to be gone.
Yeah.
So, make sure that's one of the best parts about prepping. And this is stuff that you're going to be able to use later.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you're buying things that you're not going to be able to use. Heck, at the end of it, after everything's gone, have yourself a little post-hurricane party, eat all the snacks that you bought, and water you're always going to be able to have. And it's one of those things, too, like they say, like during a major storm, it could be multiple days, sometimes even weeks, depending on how bad the storm is. So make sure you fill up your bathtub with water. It's one of those things that you can use for cleaning,
flushing toilets.
So, a lot of those modern conveniences do go away when the power goes away.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that, we're so used to having power 24/7, we really don't think about when there's no power for a week or two.
Yeah.
We're not all going to be self-sufficient. That's not the case for most of us, folks. Most of us can't go a couple days without, running through all the stores that we have in our, all the supplies that we have in our house. We're so ready for that modern convenience and being able to hop on over to Piggly Wiggly and pick up what we need. So,
definitely.
Preparation is key.
Yeah, well, and Micah, I've shared a few tips on what members can do to get prepared for a major storm hitting the area. But how does Berkeley Electric prepare?
Well, for Berkeley Electric, as you can imagine, it's a year round. We don't wait until storm season comes. We are working on building system resiliency all year long. One of the things that what we always endeavor to do is make sure that we have multiple ways for us to be able to backfeed our system. So if we have a section that goes down, over here in Allendale, we should be able to reroute power to folks to get most of the folks back on while our crews are out there repairing the damage that was caused by isolate it and repair that damage that's caused by the storm. Another way is we're always investing in our right-of-way maintenance or vegetation maintenance. So right-of-ways, for those of you who aren't familiar, those are the little paths that the electric lines follow as they go through the woods or across your property, those little corridors where the lines run through. Maintaining those has been actually one of our biggest investments that we've made, in the last decade or so, and it's really paid off in terms of reliability. Our reliability score is somewhere 99.986 or something along those lines, and a good portion of that has to come with all that preventative maintenance that are out there trimming the trees. Yes, we live in the low country, and we want to make sure that we keep our beautiful trees, but at the same time, we're
We like our beautiful power.
We like our
coming
beautiful
into our
power.
homes.
And I mean, you were talking about all the areas that we served earlier. And I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Berkeley actually changed its designation, because for the longest time we were legally known as a rural electric cooperative. And folks, when you're rural, it means for the most part around here you got a lot of trees to deal with.
Yeah.
So all across our service territory, trees are an issue that we want to make sure that we keep them trimmed back, keep the lines clear. Our linemen don't get as much overtime, which, you know,
It's also great for the members. You know?
But it's better for the members.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we do. And then training, you know, it's a year-round endeavor for all of our linemen. Not too long ago, we've got a training yard that's set up here at our facility in Monk's Corner. We've got a training yard down there in Johns Island. And then, of course, we work partnering with Trident Technical College with the electrical lineman training program that they have there at the college as well. So all of our guys go through intensive training on how to get the power back on as quickly as possible. And we're always also investing in new technology.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long ago that we started installing fancy little what they call fault indicators on all of our underground equipment. So basically when there's an outage and our guys are out in the field, as they're riding through trying to figure out where the outage is, on all of our pad mount or underground transformers, all the green boxes that are everywhere, they now have LED lights installed on them. So if that's where the power's out, there's an audible alarm, there's a flashing light, so they know exactly where to go where they get in the area of the outage. So they don't have to waste time trying to figure out, well, is it this cabinet? Is it that cabinet? They know exactly which cabinet is affected, which leg of the power is affected, and it's that much quicker that they're able to get the power back on.
Yeah, because underground's great for reliability, but when there is a problem, you know, all equipment fails at some point. It's a little bit tougher to find it. You know, the limb is not laying across the line over your head. It's somewhere in the ground or in the underground equipment. But, you know, one other component that the co-op does all year long is our major storm plan, you know, and just a month or so ago, we took another look at it. Every year we look at it, go page by page and
make sure everything's ready to roll.
Yeah, because except for our operations folks, our linemen, largely, everybody else's job basically changes. So there's everybody works to support the effort to get the power back on.
Right.
So you may be making sandwiches, you may be booking hotels, you may be registering visiting crews. So there's a lot of things that need to change and turn a big ship pretty quickly. And that's what our major storm plan does for us. So not only do we go page by page and update it every year, we have required training for all employees to an appendix, blah, blah, blah. You know, what does this say? You know, so we're all forced to be familiar with it because it's such an important document.
Right. And like you mentioned, all 300 or so employees, you know, it's not just the linemen that are out there. We have the entire co-op that is dedicated and focused on getting our members back on as quickly as possible. But the other part of that is, although we want to be quick about getting the power back on, we also want to be safe. So, you know, after the storm, safety is always going to be a priority. So talk to us a little bit about the restoration process. What does it look like? Everybody wants to get their power back on, and believe me, we want to get their power back on as quickly as possible as well. But how do we do it safely?
Yeah. And we know when the minute the lights go off, our members are sitting there counting the minutes, you know, when are they coming back on?
Right. And I mean, you know, social media is great and texting is great, but a lot of times I'll know that there is an outage from monitoring social media before I even get notification from the co-op that there's been an outage. So yeah, folks are real quick to let you know. And I mean, we understand. I mean, you need that air conditioning, especially in the summertime. Definitely.
So we do work as quickly as we can. And basically, we prioritize restoring the most people first.
Right.
So we talked about that medical
the special needs list. Yep.
And how we can't guarantee that you'll get your power on first, because if you live in a really rural area, you're going to have to just wait until we get to those individual taps, perhaps. Right. So, but first is transmission. You know, we own everything from the substation down. So if our friends at Santee Cooper are having trouble with a transmission line down, we have to wait till transmission's restored before we can, bring our substation back up to serve that area. But from transmission to our substations, we go to the main supply lines and then down to the individual taps. And something we hear all the time is, oh, my neighbor's got power. Why don't I have power?
Right.
And the power grid is kind of a complicated spider web.
Right, yeah.
Just because you would logically think you're on the same tap or line, you may not be.
Right. One side of the street could be fed by a tap on, this side.
Yeah.
And the other side of the street could be fed by a separate tap on a different, depending on how power is coming into the neighborhood. And then, like you said, then you get down to the individual taps. You might, or service lines, the line that's connected to your home.
Yeah.
You might have only at your house a tree limb line on your line that might have damaged the line that goes directly to your home.
Yeah.
Or, like I said, situations where you might just not realize that something tripped in your house and, your breaker's off and you've got power, but you just don't know it.
Yeah.
But for the most time, there's something that's affecting your home individually.
Yeah.
And the other part that we also hear too a lot of times is that, we see the trucks, they just drive by and they didn't stop to put our power on. But like you said, when we're talking about thousands of people who are without power, our priority is going to be getting the most people on as we can. So if we go to that main line and we get that main line restored, we're picking up hundreds of people. And also, like you said, electricity sort of flows downhill in that regard. It's got to go from the substation to the main line to the individual taps. So if we don't go past your home and leave you sitting there for a little while, we've got to go get those main lines on so the power can feed down to the individual taps and to the individual homes.
Yep.
And even though we talked about underground as well, somewhere at some point there is a line that is up in the air.
Oh, yeah.
So you may have underground service feeding your neighborhood, but there's a line up in the air somewhere. But then also, like you said, faults can occur on an underground line.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we learned not too long ago is when you have a hurricane come in, you have the storm surge, and especially along the coast when we've got those underground lines, flooding affects our ability to restore power.
Yeah, flooding by salt water.
Yeah. Flooding in general and then flooding by salt water can be a little bit of a complicate the matter because we got to go clean out all the cabinets before we can really get the power back up. So underground's great. It ensures reliability, but we also got to make sure that, everything's cleaned out, ready to go in those situations.
Right. And a couple other things to keep in mind, talking about BEC's prioritization of safety. We follow manufacturer guidelines on operating the bucket trucks. And so, the storm may have mostly passed, but we've got to wait until the winds die down to 35 miles per hour or less before we can send the guys out there to safely work. And we're so fortunate in the last couple of years to have a new headquarters facility, and that really does help support us in the restoration effort, even though it's just one of our 4 districts. Having a large, well-equipped headquarters facility has been so great in the couple of outages we've had since we moved in. But we have a state-of-the-art system control area where we can bring in more dispatchers to help with the effort.
Yep.
It's adjacent with a glass wall to kind of our war room where our engineering and operations folks can see in real time what's going on and be working with mutual aid arrangements and just anything they need to do. They've got all that information right at a glance. We have a large commercial kitchen, plenty of training room to host visiting crews to give them the briefing they need so they can work safely on our lines. So we're very fortunate to have facilities to best serve our members.
Well, and you mentioned mutual aid, and that's one of the things that I think is important about electric cooperatives. We have several guiding principles, and one of those is cooperation amongst cooperatives. So electric cooperatives, by and large, all of our systems are built very similar. So that way, in the event of an outage, we can send crews to a neighboring co-op or other co-ops can send crews our way, and those crews are able to basically hit the ground running because they're very familiar with the way that the system is built. Our poles are built very similar. There's a few little minor details here and there. We build poles and, with our system a little bit differently down here in the low country versus what they build it up in the upstate. But by and large, their crew members are able to come in and immediately start working and help get power back on.
Hit the ground running.
Yeah. And I mean, if you've seen it before, I mean, when we're talking about the war room, we've got, I've seen it before where we've got these maps up of where all the crews are being coming from. And you're right. They're just waiting for the storm to pass. And then literally crews from all the surrounding states start pouring into the area.
Yeah, it's like the cavalry.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see the trucks up and down the interstate as all of those co-op trucks come rushing in to help get power back on for our members.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
It really is. Yeah.
So, Micah, as we've discussed, safety is always our priority, day in and day out, but especially during a major outage effort. But what are some steps that members can take at home to ensure their safety and the safety of our crews?
Well, first and foremost, like I think is pretty much everybody knows, is that if you see a down power line, make sure that you stay away from it. There's never going to be a guarantee that just because the line is on the ground, it means that it's dead. Yeah. One of the reasons we say that is because it can be feeding electricity into the ground, which obviously you can't see that. Yeah. And so there's something that's fancy name that's called step potential, but basically it's how far the electricity is spreading out through the ground away from where that down power line is. And you might think that you're plenty far away enough, but depending on what's in the ground, what it's made up of, water, soil, water, everything else like that, you can be a lot closer to that danger zone than you really realize. Yeah. So obviously always stay away from down power lines. You mentioned water. If there's a flooded area, obviously stay out of it because you're not sure what's underneath. I mean, there might be debris, there might be nails, there might be another line in the water that you don't see. So those are the basic steps. Always, also, when you see a down power line, call 911, and or Berkeley Electric. Our folks will come out there. They'll post up. They'll make sure that everybody stays away from the line. Never try to move a low hanging line yourself. There was a situation not too long ago where there was actually not storm related, but there was a car accident and the car had gone off the road after hitting a pole, and the line was sort of sagging down along or over the road, and the ambulance couldn't get past. And they were planning to try to move the line themselves because they were trying to get to the person to render aid. But in that situation, it really could have ended up with more victims because, if they tried to move that line themselves, they could have been, electrocuted, and then we would have had the rescuers needing to be rescued. So always err on the side of caution when it comes to the down power lines. And, we mentioned generators earlier. We have the safest way to have it is if you can, they have what they call a standby generator that powers your entire home. And those are always set up with an electrician with something that's called a two-way switch, basically. So you can isolate your generator from the system, because if you don't, what can happen is that power can be feeding back onto the lines, and our guys are going to be working a line that they think is dead because they know that it's been cut off or it's down. But now all of a sudden we've got electricity feeding back into the system from somebody's generator, which can cause damage and potentially injure our linemen when they're out there working on the system.
And
so
same thing if you have solar panels on the roof of your home, you'll need to make sure the switch is thrown to where it's not backfeeding our system.
Right. So there's a lot of things that we can do in terms of that. The whole home standby generators, portable generators, of course, are meant to power individual appliances, and never plug it into your home to try to power your entire home, because once again, we get the system where it back feeds. And always try to give the lineman space to work. We know that you want your power back on. We know you want to get it on as quickly as possible, but the more time they spend answering your questions is the less time that they're actually out there getting the power back on.
Right.
So folks, those are just a few of the ways that we can, look out for you and help during the storm season that's coming up in June through the end of November. BerkeleyElectric.coop. We've got plenty of hints, tips, and ways to get ready for the storm season, summer or storms, hurricanes, whatever you need. So make sure you go visit our website. But this has been Power Talk. Thank you for tuning in. It's the official broadcast of your electric cooperative. And you can catch up on past episodes on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio, and get a behind-the-scenes look on Berkeley Electric's YouTube channel. Until next time, this is Power Talk, signing off.